हेलो स्टूडेंट्स, द ट्रीज चैप्टर के क्वेश्चन आंसर्स करेंगे, बट चैप्टर एक्सप्लेनेशन, थीम, मैसेज और उसके लिटरेरी डिवाइसेस ऑलरेडी मैंने वीडियो अपलोड कर दिया है। आप उनको पहले चेक कीजिए, उसको समझिए एंड देन कम ऑन टू द क्वेश्चन आंसर्स, राइट। चलिए, सो फर्स्ट वी विल डू द शॉर्ट क्वेश्चंस। ऑल नाइट द रूट्स वर्क। हाउ डू द रूट्स वर्क, मतलब क्या काम कर रहे हैं, किस चीज में वो एंगेज हैं। The roots of the tree growing in the veranda of the narrator's house work all night. Okay, they try hard to break the floor. The cracks have been formed out of which the roots make great efforts to come out to be liberated from the cramped space. तो सारी रात वो क्रैक्स लाने की कोशिश कर रही हैं. दे आर वर्किंग हार्ड, स्ट्रेंथनिंग देमसेल्व्स सो दैट उन क्रैक्स में से अपनी जगह बना के दे कैन मूव आउट. राइट, लिबरेटेड का मतलब है टू सेट देमसेल्व्स फ्री. राइट, लिबरेट मतलब फ्री होना. द स्ट्रगल ऑफ द रूट्स इज सिंबॉलिक. सिंबॉलिक है, मैंने आपको चैप्टर एक्सप्लेनेशन में भी समझाया बार बार. इसमें एक सब थीम चल रहा है जहां पे जो ट्रीज हैं दे आर सिंबलाइजिंग द विमेन ऑफ द सोसाइटी. So here also the struggle of the root is symbolic of the struggle of women, right, for freedom in a gender-based society. As women, they try to uproot their enslavement by men. So they want to break through those shackles in this patriarchal society, and they want to move out from the enslavement that is done by men. Next question, what whispers does the narrator hear? Right, क्या whispers जो थी, जो आवाज थी छोटी छोटी, वो सुन रही थी ऑथर. व्हाट विल हैपन टू दीज विस्पर्स द नेक्स्ट डे. नेक्स्ट डे क्या होगा? अगर आपको याद हो तो ऑथर ने आपको कमांड दिया था दैट लिसन, राइट, क्योंकि ये बाद में सुनाई नहीं देंगी. तो क्या था वो? द नरेटर कैन हियर द विस्परिंग, द लो साउंड्स ऑफ द rustling of the leaves, the chirping of the birds and the buzzing of the insects, because the trees are still in their house. But as the trees will move out, that these women will move out in the forest, you will not hear these whispering sounds. They are moving out, leaving the confinement of the house. There will be no trees the next day, nor will there be birds and insects, for they will move away with the trees. Therefore there will be no sounds for the narrator to hear. Right, so that is why she asks you to please stop doing any work and listen to that. Right, next, what is common in the activities of the roots, leaves and twigs of the trees in the poem? So the trees in the poem are trying to break free from their confinement in the cramped space of the house. All parts of the tree contribute to the efforts, right, because the small twigs, the branches, the leaves, the roots, everyone is working for making an effort to liberate themselves, right, for the freedom by struggling against the forces that cramp and confine them. The roots try to come out of the floor through the cracks, right, so they want to come out through the cracks. The legions make efforts to break the glass. The twigs exert themselves along the leaves to get out of the glass enclosure. The effort to achieve freedom is common in the activities of these parts of the trees. In fact, the various parts of the tree put up a collective struggle to attain freedom. Right, why does the poet compare the branches with patients? Branches को patients की तरह क्यों compare किया गया है? So the poet compares the branches of the trees to the patients, as the branches are crammed under suppression of the enclosure and they move clumsily to break the glass ceiling to get out into the open. इसीलिए उसको कंपेयर किया गया है उन पेशेंट से जो अभी मेडिकली फिट भी नहीं है. दे आर ड्राउजिंग बिकॉज ऑफ द मेडिकेशन, बट स्टिल दे वांट टू मूव आउट. They want to move to their houses. Similarly, the patients have been in the hospital away from their homes. Now, when they are discharged, they walk unsteadily towards the door as they are still under the impact of anesthesia or medication. Both the branches and the trees, they leave their unwelcome environment to go to their natural habitats. Why do you think the narrator does not mention the departure of the forest from the house in her letters? जो वो letters लिख रही हैं बरांडा में बैठ के, तो वो ये क्यों नहीं mention कर रही हैं उनके बारे में? So the narrator does not oversee the departure of the trees. Why? Because she is too much engrossed in writing the long letters. She does not even mention the departure of the forest from the house and remains indifferent. ये ऐसा करना उनको क्या symbolize कर रहा था? So the poet wants to show that people are so much engaged in their own activities that they pay no attention, they remain indifferent to what happens in the world of nature. They are not even bothered, what bad they are making or what significance difference they are making to the nature, right? And it is as if the tree growing in the veranda or moving out of it is of no significance to the narrator. Even if it stays or move out, no significance, no botheration. Now, how does the poet describe the moon in the third stanza and at the end of the poem? What causes this change? In the third stanza, the moon is shown to be full and whole, shining in the open sky at night. Okay? Now at the end of the poem, what changes? It is shown to be broken into pieces like a shattered mirror. टूटा हुआ, एकदम बिखरा हुआ mirror लग रहा है. क्यों? The change is caused by the fact that the narrator looks at the moon in the third stanza directly from the room without any tree. So पहले वो क्या देख रही थी? When the forest was empty, there was no tree, so she could directly see the moon. But in the last stanza, when she again sees the moon, so there comes the trees in between, and because of those trees, she could see the leaves first and then the moon. So it seems because of the trees, because of the crown of that oak tree, it seems that the moon is shattered now, right? So the change is caused by the fact that the narrator looks at the moon in the third stanza directly from the room without any tree standing in between. But at the end of the poem, kya hota hai? It is seen through the leaves and the whole of it cannot be seen. Only the parts of it can be seen because of the trees. Now its parts look like the pieces of the glass. The movement of the trees towards the forest has partially blocked the moon and brought about this change. So that is why the author says that it was different in third paragraph and it is again different in the last paragraph. Next question, change does not come easily for often it is resisted. चेंज एकदम से नहीं आता क्योंकि पहले आप उसको रेजिस्ट करते हो, आप नहीं मानते कि ऐसा चेंज होना चाहिए. Now how does the poem highlight this idea? It is really not easy to break the chains of slavery और हैबिट. किसी भी हैबिट को या स्लेवरी को की हैबिट को चेंज करना वो बहुत मुश्किल होता है. The poet, through the example of trees, show that it is not easy for women to effect a change. For example, they have had to face a lot of resistance in breaking the stereotypes about them in the society. And just as the deep roots, leaves, and twigs of a tree have to exert so hard to be relieved of the confinement, women too have to put in the serious efforts. बहुत efforts लगाने पड़ रहे हैं to change the patriarchal mindset of the society and to bring a change in the age-long cultural notions. Right? तो ये जो cultural notions हैं age long बहुत साल पुराने men domination के, उसमें change लाने में women have to really work really hard. Next question, how does the poet bring home the idea of transformation in the poem The Trees? So the movement and the transformation of the trees seems to be sudden and quick and comes about with a collective effort. तो ये एक collective effort बन के आ रहा है, right? Because all the parts of the trees are putting their collective effort, and so is the feminist of the society, right? So however, I do believe this change or transformation took a long time to build. The roots had to exert so hard to come out of the depth of the ground. The leaves, twigs, and the boughs, they broke down the glass confinement. The poet emphasizes that if awareness is widespread and the efforts are earned, the existing social and cultural setup can be changed thoroughly. Right? Next, the trees in Edenridge's poem of the same name symbolizes women. Discuss. So Edenridge is a great feminist poet who has used various symbols in her poetry to raise a voice against पेट्रियार्कल स्टीरियोटाइप्स. इन्होंने बहुत पोएम्स लिखी हैं फेमिनिज्म के ऊपर जो ये पेट्रियार्कल सोसाइटी के जो नॉर्म्स हैं उसको ब्रेक करना चाहती है, राइट. In this poem too, she has blended her concern for balance in nature with her emphasis on the equality of genders in human society. Trees actually do not walk from one place to another, but then it is a symbolic, right? The women are they are symbolized here because of the trees. So the hard veranda floor and the glass wall stand for the restrictions on women, and the roots, leaves, twigs, and boughs struggling to go out, in fact, project women rising against the male domination at various levels, right? The ending of the poem indicates a celebration of victory. Discuss. So the poem ends on a happy note, as trees have been able to liberate themselves from the bondage of homes and move out of the windows to back to their natural environment. Now this symbolically points out the triumph of women. Triumph का मतलब जीत. So ये फेमिनिज्म विमेन की जीत दर्शाता है कि वो हर एक इनइक्वालिटी को और पेट्रियार्कल सोसाइटी के नॉर्म्स को तोड़ के आज बाहर निकल गई हैं, उन शैकल्स को, कन्फाइनमेंट्स को, उन होम बाउंड्रीज को तोड़ के बाहर निकल गई हैं, winning their fight for equality and independence. Women have busted myths about them created by the patriarchal society and are establishing themselves as equal to men. जितना मेन केपेबल है अपने आप को, उतने ही विमेन ने भी अपने आप को केपेबल शो कर दिया है. How does the poem bring out the idea that a problem can be solved if addressed with earnest and unflinching efforts at all levels? कैसे अपनी प्रॉब्लम को आप सॉल्व कर सकते हैं अगर आप बहुत ही सीरियस और एकदम रेगुलर जो आपके एफर्ट्स हैं अगर आप उसको डालें तो. The poem brings home the idea that a problem can be solved if all of its aspects are addressed and concerted efforts are made to resolve it. The roots, the twigs, the leaves, and the boughs, all of them had to exert to break the bondage of the tree. And similarly, women of all sections of society have to fight for not only the political but also social, cultural, religious, and economic independence to establish their identities equal to those to men. Okay, the long question now. How does the poem present a conflict between a man and nature? Is the poet suggesting that plants and trees used for interior decoration in cities, while forests are cut down, are imprisoned and need to break out? The poem The Trees by Adrian Rich presents a conflict between man and nature by presenting the plight. जो दर्द है ट्रीज का वो दिख रहा है इसमें, that have been removed from the forest to be planted in houses. हम घरों में, सिटीज में अपने घरों में छोटे छोटे पौधे लगाना चाहते हैं लेकिन जंगलों से उन ट्रीज को काट देना चाहते हैं just to flourish our houses, just to decorate our houses, right, for interior decoration. Man, because of his selfish purpose, tries to spoil and confine natural things. Man causes serious damage to nature by cutting down trees from forests, then जो उनके natural habitat है of trees which provide an appropriate environment for their growth. तो वो तो हम देख ही नहीं रहे हैं. अपने selfish purposes के लिए forest को continuously chop off किए जा रहे हैं. So moreover, forests are essential for maintaining the ecological balance. The forests provide shelter to numerous beasts, birds, and insects. When trees are removed from their natural environment and planted in the scanty, cramped, and closed spaces of buildings in the cities, they feel stifled and confined. Away from their natural habitat, they feel uprooted and alienated. They put up a rebellion होता है कि आप विरोध करना, ठीक है, हम ये नहीं चाहते हैं तो आप विरोध कर रहे हैं, you are standing against something. So they put up a rebellion against their domination by men, कि अब हम और domination नहीं सहेंगे, and struggle to achieve freedom in order to breathe in the open and fresh air. The imagination of the poet that the roots, leaves, twigs, and boughs of the trees growing in the veranda of her house are putting up a struggle to achieve freedom. ये हमें क्या मैसेज कन्वे करता है? ये मैसेज कन्वे करता है that collective efforts are required for achieving freedom. बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट लाइन थी ये, कलेक्टिव एफर्ट्स आर रिक्वायर्ड टू अचीव फ्रीडम. Now, what is common about the poem The Tiger in a Zoo and the Trees? ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट क्वेश्चंस है जहां पे आपको दो चैप्टर्स की सेम थीम को कंपेयर किया जा रहा है, राइट? दे आर ऑफन आस्क्ड इन द बोर्ड एग्जाम्स नाउ. चलिए, सो द पोएम अ टाइगर इन द जू बाय लेस्ली नॉरिस, आपको दोनों के चैप्टर के नेम्स विद देयर ऑथर्स, विद द पोएट्स, ये लिखने का बहुत जरूरी है. So by Leslie Norris and The Trees by Adrian Rich share a common central idea. और वो क्या है कि natural habitat is essential for the proper growth. नेचुरल हैबिटेट बहुत जरूरी है लिविंग बींग्स की प्रॉपर ग्रोथ के लिए. तो जो भी लिविंग बींग्स है उनका जो नेचुरल हैबिटेट है वहीं पे उनकी असली ग्रोथ होती है. Both the poems present the cruelty of men in meddling with the natural environment by separating the natural inhabitants of the forest from the natural atmosphere. So men का जो ये selfish purpose है उसके चलते जब वो natural habitats को उनके इनहेबिटेंट्स को उनके नेचुरल हैबिटेट से दूर कर देता है, तो ये उसका सेल्फिश पर्पस है और ये उसको कहीं ना कहीं इंसान को उसका सेटबैक जरूर लगेगा. A tiger in the zoo presents the pitiable plight of the tiger who feels uncomfortable in that concrete cell in the zoo when separated from the forest. उसको बहुत अजीब लग रहा है क्योंकि उसको तो खुला रहने की आदत है, लेकिन यहाँ पे क्या हो रहा है, उसको एक कंक्रीट सेल में जू में बंद करके रखा है where he is so very uncomfortable. Similarly, the trees feel unhappy and uncomfortable जब उनको एक हाउस में imprison करके रखा जाता है away from the forest. So both the trees and the tiger are the natural inmates of forest और उनको natural inmates को वहीं से अलग कर दिया है. So they want to live their natural life in the open environment of the woods. The tiger feels imprisoned in a cramped space of the cage and his movement is restricted and his natural self is suppressed. He cannot roar violently as he would do in a forest. The tree too feels restrained and enslaved while growing in a house and wants to break free from these shackles. Right? Both the poems convey the message that trees and animals must be provided their natural environment. Man must stop his cruel attack on nature for their selfish purposes. Right? Trees are just a metaphor in Adrian Rich. कि सिर्फ कंपेयर किया गया है किसके थे, the trees में. It is actually about women and their liberation and their fight for equality. डिस्कस कीजिए, यानी कि इसमें थीम के ऊपर बात की जा रही है कि इस चैप्टर का थीम क्या है. इसमें जो ट्रीज बोल रहे हैं, ट्रीज तो बहुत एक सिंबॉलिक है, लेकिन वो असली में बात कर रहे हैं विमेन ऑफ द सोसाइटी की, उनके इक्वालिटी की. So Adrian Rich is profoundly concerned about man's tampering with nature and about women being enslaved by men. It is obvious in the poem The Trees, which is an allegory and can be read at two levels. It has a text and a subtext. On the apparent level, the poem deals with the problem of deforestation कि हमने forest को खाली कर दिया है, काट काट के वहां पे कोई trees ही नहीं छोड़े हैं, which leads to ecological imbalance. तो ये आपका फर्स्ट आपका थीम है कि ecological imbalance कर दिया है हमने. The poet raises a voice against clearing of forest and growing trees in cramped places like houses where their growth remains stifled. Right? So वहां से हटा के अब हम क्या चाहते हैं कि हमारे घरों के अंदर ये trees उगे, which is not possible. That is not the natural habitat of those trees. There is an emphasis on the need of afforestation for keeping the environment free from pollutants. If human beings tamper with the plan of nature, a disaster always ensures. In the poem, the trees put up a struggle for their freedom. However, at a deeper level, the poem is about women's fight for liberation. ये इसका second theme है. And equality. Like the trees in suppressive houses, women in patriarchal society have been confined and restrained. Now they have been denied a free existence, which is not possible in a patriarchal society. They have been treated as beings with no identity of their own. Fortunately, women now realize the power politics behind their suppression by men and are fighting for equality with men in social, political, cultural, and economic spheres. And just like the trees, they too will be victorious. जैसे ट्रीज अपने फॉरेस्ट में वापस आ गए थे, ये भी अपनी स्पेस, अपनी प्लेस को वापस ले लेंगे, राइट? How does the poet create vivid impressions of the forest and trees in the poem The Trees? The poet Adrian Rich creates vivid images, बहुत तरह की अलग अलग images present कर रहे हैं of the forests and trees by using personification and symbolism. I have explained both these parts in literary devices. She refers to the trees as alive creatures trying to physically disengage themselves from the cracks in the veranda floor and move towards the forest. She also focuses on the leaves that strain towards the glasses. She writes that the twigs, she write the writers, she writes that the twigs are stiff with exertion to portray them as living beings. The shuffling boughs under the roof to come alive when the poets with the poet's description. Right? The poet uses trees as a pertinent symbol to represent the struggle of women who try to free themselves from those confinements of domesticity. The narration of the roots working hard throughout night and the bows struggling like newly discharged patients, half dozed, moving to the clinic doors, suggests the quandary of women trapped by the patriarchy. सो मैंने इसमें इस चैप्टर में अगर आप कंपेयर करेंगे तो और चैप्टर्स के मुकाबले आई हैव गिवन यू अ लॉट मेनी क्वेश्चंस, और वो सिर्फ इसीलिए दिए बिकॉज क्वेश्चंस को किसी भी तरीके से थोड़ा ट्विस्ट करके दिया जा सकता है, लेकिन आंसर्स मैं आपको इसीलिए सजेस्ट करी है कि किस तरीके से आपको उनके आंसर्स लिखने हैं, राइट? एक बार सारे आंसर्स लर्न करके लिख के जरूर देखिएगा, दैट विल गिव यू अ फेयर प्रैक्टिस. थैंक यू.